Thank you for the beautiful music. Good morning and welcome to everyone with us, those here in this space and those joining us on live stream. I am Reverend Millie Phillips, an affiliated community minister here at San Francisco UU, and I am joined on the channel this morning by Worship Associate Santana Gonzalez Gomez. Thanks to all of those who have made our service and our Sunday programs possible today, to our guest pianist, Stephen Cox, our song leader, Akane Ota, to our communications director, Jonathan Silk, and to Eric Shackelford, Shu Liang, and Eli Brochures for live streaming our service, to our facilities staff today, Thomas Brown, Matias Pineda Salazar, and Francisco Castellanos, and to our ushers led by Linda Messner and our greeters. We hope all of you here or on live stream have an order of service so you can follow along in worship. For those who are joining us on live stream, if you have any issues or problems at any time, please know that someone is monitoring the chat to answer any questions. If this is your first time joining us in person or watching, thanks for joining us. If you would like to receive a copy of our weekly email newsletter, which includes a link to the order of service and Sunday live stream, you can fill out one of our connections forms. The forms are on the welcome table outside the sanctuary, in a pew in front of you, and also available through a link in the order of service or video description of today's service. Please note that there is a masked-only section on the far left and a section for those who are here with their animal companions on the far right. And our ushers have hearing-assisted devices located in the back of the sanctuary. So welcome all of you to worship.
I invite us all to say the words of the unison chalice lighting, which are printed in your order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together. And now, let us greet one another.
Thank you all for greeting one another. Thank you for energetically greeting each other. And now, even though you just sat down, if you would please rise in body or spirit as you are able, and join in singing our opening hymn, number 1051, We Are, in the teal hymnal, which will be followed by our unison covenant and doxology.
For each child that born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are grandmother's prayers, and we are grandfather's dreamings. We are the bliss of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the scorn of God's vision. We are sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We are seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of place and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the son of great visions. We are sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We are seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Now, please join together in speaking our covenant and singing our doxology. The words are printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
As some of you may know, I love musicals. And one that's been stuck in my head recently is Ride the Cyclone. After one of the characters, Noel Gruber, sings a revealing and provocative songs about his dreams of being a woman of the night in post-war France, his classmate Ocean complains that his story was not about anything real and wasn't worth telling because it didn't have a lesson. She then breaks into a song in which she claims that every story's got a lesson and dismisses any story she sees as overindulgent and non-educational, such as her classmate Misha's favorite movie, Saw 5. The idea that Ocean is trying to convey is that a story is only worth telling if it has a clear-cut message. Given her established beliefs in social Darwinism, I feel like that makes sense for a character such as herself. However, I feel that she's misunderstood her own motto. When I hear the phrase, "every story has a lesson," I think that every story, no matter how seemingly insignificant or nonsensical it may be, has a lesson to teach us. My partner Agni and I often purposefully watch critically panned movies and TV shows, and afterwards we discuss with each other exactly why we think it was hated so much and what the crew could have done better. Sometimes we come to the conclusion that critics just don't know what they're talking about, but oftentimes we find that there are very good stories from talented writers and directors that are victims of bad acting and the time it was airing and whatnot. An example of this being the disastrous 2018 TV reboot of Heathers. The show was delayed due to real-world circumstances and ended up being heavily censored when it eventually aired in the US. Luckily for us, there are ways of finding obscure media, and eventually we found our way to the original unedited series. It was bad. For the longest time, I couldn't figure out what lesson it was trying to teach, especially since it had deviated so far from the plot of the movie it was based on. Then Agni told me that instead of thinking of it as a reboot, I should think of it as its own separate story, perhaps even a sequel of the movie. And that made things click a bit more for me. Don't get me wrong, it's still bad. The acting is terrible. But that made me start to understand the message the writers were trying to convey and made me appreciate the series a bit more. Ride the Cyclone has its own story to tell, of 6 teenagers learning to appreciate their lives after a freak roller coaster accident takes their lives. It's a story I enjoy watching over and over again, each time appreciating the songs and characters more and more. Ocean's character actually reminds me of a younger me, down to thinking that some stories didn't deserve to be told. But all stories, no matter how bad or poorly executed they may be, are worth telling. The offering this morning goes to Faith in Action. Faith in Action is a global movement that unites people of faith to promote social change at the grassroots level. The organization focuses on ensuring access to clean water, education, healthcare, and decent jobs while empowering communities to advocate for justice. By providing resources and training, Faith in Action helps individuals and organizations collaborate to turn faith values into impactful actions. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Thank you. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. In the many names of that which each of us holds sacred, let us hold in our hearts all within our church community who are grieving, ill, in pain, or dealing with other hardships. Let us also hold in our hearts all who are suffering the myriad injustices of our times and who live in fear of injustices to come, to immigrant neighbors facing deportation, incarceration, and families torn apart, to those denied necessary, sometimes life-saving medical care in the face of pregnancies, unwanted or with tragic complications, to those sleeping in tents or cars or in doorways or on sidewalks, denied a safe and affordable place to live, to our trans siblings scapegoated and threatened, to those killed by gun violence or by deliberately rampaging drivers, to those murdered, maimed, widowed, and orphaned in the latest genocidal atrocities against the Palestinian people and in the ongoing wars in Ukraine, Sudan, and many other countries, just to name a few of the horrendous examples of unimaginable suffering caused by greed, bigotry, and the hunger for absolute power. In the face of injustices likely to increase in this country, may we stay focused on what could be, growing our power and solidarity, resisting despair and denial. May we find the humility and patience to see ourselves as co-workers and caregivers, each with necessary tasks and worthy ourselves of self-care. May we be kind and generous to all who serve beside us. May we find solace and even joy with those we love in art and music and worshiping together. May we live conscious of the ultimate value of each sacred moment of life. Amen. And now would you please join me in a minute of silent contemplation. And if during this time you have lost someone close to you in the past year, we invite you to stand or raise your hand in silent witness to this loss. Thank you. Our reading today is Naked Truth, a Jewish tale retold as a poem by Heather Forrest. Naked Truth walked down the street one day. People turned their eyes away. Parable arrived, draped in decoration. People greeted Parable with celebration. Naked Truth sat alone, sad and unattired. "Why are you so miserable?" Parable inquired. Naked Truth replied, "I'm not welcome anymore. No one wants to see me. They chase me from the door." "It is hard to look at naked truth," Parable explained. "Let me dress you up a bit, and your welcome will be gained." Parable dressed naked truth in story's fine attire, with metaphor, poignant prose, and plots to inspire. With laughter and tears, an adventure to unveil, together they went forth to spin a tale. People opened their doors and served them their best. Naked Truth, dressed in story, became a welcome guest. Again, thanks for the wonderful music this morning that so enriches our time together. Humans are storytellers. Many of our indigenous ancestors and current siblings would add that we are not unique in that way. Do whales gather in their pods to tell stories? I'd like to think they do, but today I'm going to stick to us pesky humans. As far back as we know, our development has depended on stories. Without the ability to share an idea, a vision, a desire, a story arising within a human brain, virtually nothing can be accomplished. Stories may also be efforts to tell the unembellished truth about something that happened so that we can share a common understanding of reality. Or they may be about entirely fictional events with fictional characters, often illustrating, we hope, a greater truth about who we are or would like to be with each other. Or they may be somewhere in between fact and fiction, sometimes with hidden agendas, often hidden even from the speaker, or full of self-serving objectives, steeped in denial of implications and consequences. I'm not a postmodernist. I do believe there is a truth with a capital T. That truth is not relative, that if two ideas completely contradict each other, they can't both be true. But truth remains conditional. What seems to be scientifically proven and thus true at one point in history can be shown false by new evidence. Because we are limited by time and space, a life barely long enough to reach conclusions any of us can dare to live by confidently, and because we are not infinitely intelligent, ultimate truth will always be an elusive story, something we chase but never quite catch. But what I seek to address today is more in the realm of the immediate, the realm we all live in, like it or not, the realm we face in this new year, 2025, and the stories that we will need to navigate it. Our stories matter, as Santana pointed out, because they create who we are. The question we must ask is not necessarily if our stories are true, but do they empower us? Do they help us create a happier life for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our communities, for humanity as a whole? A life without genocide, war, poverty, exploitation, or bigotry? A life where we can all thrive in ways sustainable for future generations? To illustrate the power of stories, I'd like to share a personal realization. It's about a story I had that was both false and disempowering. I'm 69 years old, and many of us may have a story along the lines of the old cliche that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I don't know much about dogs, but my experience demonstrates that we humans are capable of breakthroughs at any age. In my mid-60s, I went through a transformative experience. I found out I met the diagnostic criteria for what used to be called Asperger's syndrome, now referred to as autism level 1, a condition characterized by atypical, often rigid thought processes and difficulties reading, understanding, and interacting with others. I worked with a therapist for 2 years who specializes in this condition and spent a year in a support group for autistic professional adults. I learned many things I had never known, all of which have helped me become far more effective, confident, caring, and generous. But there was one that stands out above all the others. You see, I had this story about categorical statements. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office as a kid because every time a teacher made a categorical statement, I had to raise my hand to point out the obvious exceptions or to ask how the teacher knew there weren't exceptions. Now, I didn't do this because I was a precocious, spoiled brat, the usual explanation, but because I was genuinely confused. I wanted the truth. Other kids seem to have been born with an instruction book I never received. Somehow they seemed to be okay with falsehood, as did most adults. But why were people so at ease with statements that didn't make sense to me, that were in many cases just flat out wrong, such as racial and gender stereotypes that condemned others to second-class status? I never figured it out, but I did get tired of being punished and ridiculed, so I learned to shut up and tried to be a groveling people pleaser much of my life. It didn't work well. I was just too anxious, defensive, and excessively apologetic, not able to fully hide my resentment and envy under a veneer of shy, self-deprecating niceness. I wanted to scream every time I heard someone say, "Stop taking it personally." But I thought, if I'm in a category you're criticizing, and I belong to many of the most hated categories there are, how could you not be attacking me? Besides, it wouldn't be moral to exempt myself. If I'm in the category, I must be guilty as charged, even if I can't figure out where I failed. You know, UU ministry education was kind of a hell for me, since much of it focused on critiquing every privileged identity one could possess. Being given no possibility to ever be absolved from condemnation attributed categorically to my identities posed an unsolvable contradiction so painful that I remember one day getting in my car and spontaneously driving to Los Angeles and back, stopping only for gas and restrooms in a nonstop panic attack. Yet somehow I muddled through, yet still not understanding why others didn't have the same reactions. So what changed? My therapist taught me that categorical statements aren't absolutes. That's it. At most, they are generalities, averages, or trends. Thus, my colleagues who criticized identities they belonged to themselves weren't the immoral hypocrites I thought they were. My fellow students who calmly accepted categorical identity critiques weren't faking that calmness. Unlike me, the story they heard was this: well, a lot of X people do Y, which is bad. So, if I'm an X, I need to be vigilant about not doing Y, and to remind my fellows to do the same, especially when they fall short. And because I'm working on it, I'm one of the good guys. I don't need to be ashamed. Perhaps unlike that Millie over there who can't handle admitting she is fallible and deserves to be called out for her insufferable fragility. They didn't know I had a story different from theirs. I didn't know they had a story different from mine. My story that categorical statements were absolute was both untrue and disempowering. And yet, if just one person throughout my life had asked why I found such statements so distressing, had wondered if something else might be going on, rather than assuming immoral entitlement, I might have learned this far earlier in life. How many misunderstandings, hardships, breakups, and defeats could have been avoided, for them as well as for me? So we have been facing an existential crisis for a long time. But today, in 2025, it has become immediate, open, and obvious. There are no guarantees that those of us who have not already been taken out by it will survive this crisis. Ask those still alive in Gaza, for example. And an honest assessment could indicate that the human story might be coming to an end within the lifespans of many of you in this room. But is that an empowering story? I believe not, because to say it's too late or too hard ensures only that we will fail. Such a story is more likely to empower resignation and despair than to inspire action. Perhaps even support a moral smugness about the human story being so horrendously cruel and destructive that it is fully worthy of a final chapter of good riddance. I say no, because the human story is my story, your story, the stories that allowed our ancestors to survive against all odds, the stories of friendship and solidarity, of courage and love, of redemption and transformation, not only of horror. Analogous to the breakthrough that occurred for me on a tiny single human scale, the whole human story might still allow a collective breakthrough, one where we realize that our stories about who we are and who others are have been disempowering and self-defeating for all of us. Today, we need more than ever stories that inspire action, inclusion, compassion, and defiance. Now, I'm not asking that we try to shift our stories about those whose greed and bigotry would lead us into some fascistic nightmare. We each have limited time and energy. Like one story says, it makes more sense to plant seeds in an already fertile field than in a sterile one. Rather, I am asking that we organize to enroll others in our visions, that we don't write off those whose differences merely frustrate or annoy us, that we confront our own assumptions and actions when we fail to achieve the results we want, and that when faced with obstacles, we cultivate curiosity and humility more than self-righteousness or envy. We must inspire each other to come up with a collective plot twist for the human story. We must ensure a new volume gets to be written. Success will take millions of us, not all writing the same words or on the same page, yet mutually honoring the stories of our transformative journeys toward liberation. Let's begin. Thank you. And now, as you please rise and thanks. Thank you. And now, as you please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, in the Teal Hymnal.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust our wisdom in each of us, every color.
I have some brief invitations. Please review the events and activities in your order of service, which cover theological education, topical political issues, poetry, anti-racist work, and end-of-life issues. And please welcome both Emma Wakeling and Athena Papadakos for some special announcements.
Hi, good morning. I'm Athena Papadakos on the Flower Committee, along with Amy Kelly and Judy Payne and Carrie Still-Salazar. And each week, it is our delight on our service committee to bring you the joy and beauty of flowers to support your worship experience. Today, for $20 in the back of the church, we'll be selling our beautiful poinsettias for the season for $20 each. If you can give more, thank you. And if you cannot give that much, no one will be turned away from beauty for a lack of funds. So please join us at the end of the service in the hallway if you'd like to bring home some beauty of the season. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Just a quick invitation to anybody here today who is new or newer or new-ish to the UUSF, that we're having a newcomer orientation after service at 12:30 in the fireside room. It's a chance to meet other new folks, members, long-term members of the church, to ask questions about what we have going on here and to tell us a little about yourself. So if you can't find it, I'll be waiting in the gallery to help show folks where it is. It's a bit of a maze. But yeah, we hope you'll join us. Thank you.
As our worship comes to an end, we extinguish our chalice, carrying the memory of its light with us into the world beyond our doors, sharing its empowering symbolism by our courageous and compassionate actions. Please rise as you are able and join hands for our benediction, or if you would prefer, cross your arms across your chest. As we begin this new year, may we find stories that give us courage and conviction, that open our hearts to friendship, camaraderie, and love, that remind us to act mercifully, to love justice, and to walk humbly. May we tell stories that inspire the same for others, and together, may we build the world we dream of, no matter the obstacles we encounter. Amen. Blessed be. And please do our postlude. Thank you for joining us in worship.